Alright, so today I'm actually going to be covering something that I've actually been kind of laboring over, um, but also getting in touch with as time has gone on, which is this idea of documenting my journey so far and what's really come of my life as of making it the most important thing to me to make it the most important thing to me to go through my adventures in life, but also to recognize that the journey is the one that has really taken me to all kinds of places and to all kinds of realizations and awarenesses that have like really um, touched on various aspects of things that have been going through as of late, but also just overall as an experience that I've had, and allowing myself to really process that and to get the most out of it, and to allow myself to have the ability to process what exactly has been happening in my life um, ever since entering, another person's work around creating a natural relationship with success and what that has meant for me moving forward, and what the journey has been like, not only from, well, it's going to be 100% from my own experience, but just overall as the relationship of what that's supposed to be like, and to recognize where I've been coming from and where I've been growing the most and coming into contact with such incredible people, but also with such incredible premises and concepts and these ideas that really bring the entire journey that I've gone through in my life to a cohesive point, to something that I can share and something that I can labor over, but more so something that I can just love and be able to process and give my heart to, and allow myself to have that heart back. Um, so one of them being like, what have I learned about myself this time in this moment of my life as I'm actually recording this? And it was recognizing when it's okay to be the person who shows up for you, because there's so many times in which I didn't get any validation from the people that I was really looking forward to getting validation from, and there wasn't always moments in which I've always felt like I was doing the most that I could in any given moment. And there's also times in which I'm aware of the chaos, and I don't mean it in the terms in which most people see the form of chaos as in this destructive force or this relationship with the universe where everything is, unhinged and all of that other stuff. Um, but rather I see chaos as an abundance of stuff. Like, it's not set in stone what it is yet, but it is many different facets. It's many different creations, all going and vying for, what's going to be created next, based on the messages, based on the guidance that they're getting. And I mean that in that there's always an underlying thing being said, and that's something that I've been learning, is like there's some sort of occupation that is going on underneath the things that are apparent, or what's going on. There's an agenda that comes with our relationships in life, all relationships in life, all things in existence. They have a message, they have an agenda. There is something going on that can predate or otherwise overrule whatever is going on. It's like the underlying message of like all kingdoms fall to ruin eventually. Like that in and of itself is a message. And that idea that nothing is ever set in stone, everything is consistently changing, is one of those messages that are always really talked about. But I've never recognized myself as anything other than always having the intent to continue to change. And I've always had the relationship where the dynamic of what it means to change, what it means to become more forthcoming about every step of my journey, and what that means, what that's like, and having that relationship continue to build is what I've been learning. Like, there's so many aspects of what I've found about myself moving into chaos, moving into the uncertainty of life, the mysteries around it, putting together different kind of structures for my life, being in meditation but realizing, different things about myself, like the ability to manipulate time and all of this other stuff where I'm not on anybody else's clock other than my own, which was always was one of the bigger kicking points for me. And I've had to re-examine and then learn and find that my version of time is so much more vast and infinite and filled with so much possibility that giving it to other people is like, I can spend an eternity with another person and the time itself doesn't reflect that. Like, the opportunity and the amount of time given does not equate to how time is structurally for whatever the person is going through. And that was such a hard thing to learn for myself. But it also, like, it comes back to that abundance. It's like you can have an abundance of something but not really know what it's for. And that was one of the things that I had to learn, is that I have an abundance of time. Like, one of the things that I always learned was, like, the way I deal with time and the way that I personally experience it, the chaotic way that I experience it, was to build a relationship with it so that I'm never undermining myself and seeing it as something destructive. And that was the same thing with chaos as well, and things that are unpredictable and all of this other stuff. But it wasn't to deny that there's an underlying great aspect to everything that I was going through. And that's one of the things too that I've been learning as of late, is how to still be with the greatness of it all and not take anything personally. Because I don't take setbacks personally anymore. I just sit with a good deal of tension, and yeah, sometimes it sucks. Like, it doesn't feel great and I don't have to like it, but it's not something that I've now, sitting with and being aware of. I don't take it personally. There's no reason to take it personally. There's no reason to look at the life I've lived and decide that any of it was to personally undermine me or to destroy stuff. It was just my ignorance about how to live life and, what my life was even for. Because that was something that I had to learn and unlearn a lot of stuff about, because there was always the information that we consider now taboo about what it is to be who you are and to exist as you are without having to answer to somebody else. That had always been one of the strongest struggling points in my life, because I never felt like anybody in particular. It was always, other people have like this really great life where they have a lot of things that they overlook that I noticed, but they didn't necessarily notice. And that was always extremely rough, because I wanted the things that other people got so easily, and it seemed to come to them so naturally. So learning how to continue to be with the odds and be with the outcome that I really want has really been the thing that I've been learning, and like what it means to sit with it and to realize that even if there is like a setback, which isn't even a real thing, it's just I require and the ability to find where my real focus is, like what it is that I really want out of the outcome, because the outcome can definitely come to me and can be vague, but still there's something there that I want that allows me to progress, that's going to build on something that will find along the way, what I'm building, what I'm creating. So that's what I'm learning right now, as of this very moment in my life's journey. What has given way and what remains the same? A lot of the really rough portions of my life have really given way. Like there's so much of there were so many moments in which it was questioning whether or not what I'm doing is worth the commitment. And it's interesting to talk about now because it had fallen away so hard. Like it was one of those moments where I was just genuinely surprised how easy it was to get over that. Because there was always, for me, what I experienced in my life was always like 2 steps forward, and then like things would happen without me really being a part of them. And all of a sudden, like, I don't talk to people anymore, or like I don't have a relationship with a person that I've been talking to for like forever, gone, like out the window. And it was just strange. So I've always had moments that those areas in life just kind of fall away, and it wasn't because I didn't tend to them or didn't show up for them or anything. It was just natural, because I've never had a friend from my past who stuck around for a very long time. I've never had the childhood friend is the kind of idea that I'm going for with that one. But like overall, I haven't had, things remained the same 100%. Everything was constantly changing in my life. And one of the things that just seemed to stay the same was always me. Like whatever I was going through, it seemed like all of a sudden I would shift into a place that was totally uncomfortable and totally not what I wanted. So a lot of self-judgment began to build up around that, and that has actually given way quite a bit. Like there's no right way to say the things that I want to say even now. Like there really isn't. There's just what I really want for the intent of this, and allowing that to be the standalone for everything. And that has really remained the same but gotten stronger, because I've always wanted this. Like I always wanted to live my life in a very particular manner, but it's one that I've dreamt of, and it's literally bringing my dreams to life. Like I can't tell you how many times I've had deja vu. And again, it's not like I'm making things that are really big or very expansive or this or that. It's more inside. Like I have so much more genuine compassion for myself, for other people, because I've always, like for a very long time, I've always seen others as like human. You're going through the motions, and it's not like anybody prepared you for the life that you want to live. Literally nobody has. Nobody teaches you how to use your imagination. Nobody teaches you how important it is just to go with the first thing that comes to your mind. Nobody tells you how important it is just to make stuff up. Like, it took years, and even before the years, I'm writing a book still that actually encompassed the natural success formula that William came up with, and the Kabbalion, and all of these other spiritual based texts that I never even like fully comprehended. I just read it and recognized bits and pieces of information that I made up moving forward to construct my life about. And the book is called the You and I verse, which is literally you and I in a verse, which is writing, which is, the written word as is, or script, whatever you want to see it as, which was totally crazy. But it's something that still remains in my life. I still write on it, and I still gain insights from it, and it's continuing to expand. Do I know where the heck it's going? No. Do I need to know? No. I want to find out just by continuing to write it. But that's also like the relationship between like what's given way and what remains. Like that inevitability of connecting with my heart is inevitable, and that has been something that has stuck with me, but just been fleshed out more and more. That's what I want. So that has remained the same, just gotten stronger over time. Why do I consider so much of what I have to share, or what I experience, to be too weird, strange? Too weird and strange is just like what I talked about with the you and I verse, and writing about a course that I was going to take that came out of nowhere, is that there's so much subtle nature to magic, because everybody is like obsessed with like miracles and things like being created seemingly out of nowhere. But that's the same idea of magic, and it's like the same idea behind intuition, is like it comes out of nowhere, but it's the first thing that shows up that is apparently what it is. And so much of my experiences are weird. There's so much, I guess, what you would consider like internal, monologue or dialogue that takes place, but it's not necessarily thoughts. There's so many times I've touched my own heart and have come into contact with things that are extremely profound. Like if I lay down and like focus on where I'm aware the energy builds up and just communicate and hear what it has to say, and just imagine that I could imagine hearing what it says, I can hear what my heart is talking about. And it has always influenced my dreams. It has always influenced my life in some way, shape, or form. Just being able to acknowledge magic has been one of those things that I have been learning over time to appreciate and come to. And I'll definitely get into that a bit. Though right now it's just what I experienced to be too weird and strange. Just overall, like being able to experience natural success, for free, because that's what I've experienced it for free, at least for CYD, which is Create Your Destiny, A4S, which is Alchemy for Success. These structures and this relationship with moving forward and everything I've written about in the You and I verse has just blown my mind on how weird it is. I've connected to storms. I've felt into what it's like to embody electricity. The first time I ever, interacted with psychoactive substances, I could feel the magnetics of things, and it hasn't stopped. Like, I can still feel things very intently. Like, I imagine there was a time where I actually was speaking to a class member by the name of Raquel. We're in the central office of a high school, and it was like / junior high, but that's not the point. The senior high was the building that I was in, and I ended up reaching down and imagining that I was picking up a cockroach. As weird as that sounds, and as maybe disturbing as that sounds, for her, in that moment, I was actually holding a cockroach, and she screamed because she could imagine what I was imagining just for a moment. And my life has been filled with those very weird moments. I've shown up for my friends, and like I like to LARP. I like to imagine things and like have these battle scenarios and all this other stuff and these different characters and abilities that are really cool. I've shown up for stuff like that. I've shown up for those sessions completely removed from everything that was taking place with my friends for like a month, just to come back, for them to have run into a point where they couldn't, for the life of them, figure out how they were going to beat a big bad that they had, you know, hyped up and created in my absence. And I became the hero, my character became the hero of that situation simply because I figured out within that time frame, or roughly by the time I was like walking over there, what I wanted to do, what I would love to do as like my hero building in his power and his abilities and everything else. And it was exactly what was necessary for it. And I've had so many moments where I was told that I had perfect timing. If not by them, by other people. I've had people tell me I'm walking Xanax. I'm super calm. Like, the very essence of me and my presence was very calming. And again, like, all of these moments are weird, and strange, but they're all accurate to, like, the actual abilities and talents that I have. And it's like the same thing with talking. So many people tell me about my voice, and it's one of the things that I've been learning about, moving into it and appreciating, is just the power of communication and the ability to communicate strongly, what I love. And I love my journey. I love my journey through life. I love going through this, but like, it's because of the weird stuff. And I own that. I own how weird it is. I own how strange it is. But each part of that has built on itself. There are moments that I've healed ridiculously fast. There are moments where I've kind of tuned into things and became aware of them and were able to accurately break down a situation to perfectly explain to people without them getting confused about it. There are so many abilities that I have that fall into those experiences. I've walked into somebody else's time before. I've experienced somebody else's stress before just by moving in front of them and them moving towards me and for whatever reason being open to it. And it was jarring. And I was working at a Burger King. This person was working the cash register at the drive-thru, and they just walked towards me and just enveloped me in their chaotic nature, because there's a level of perception, there's a level of, I wouldn't say awareness because I use it differently, but there's a level of depth that you reach for everything that you experience. And unless you have the ability to actually truly see it with fresh eyes and to appreciate it and make up what that means, you're never going to get the full experience of what your life is meant for. Because there's this idea that, children make things up all the time and children have imaginary friends. I won't go into the obscenities, but, for F's sake, we have, for fuck's sake, there are so many people who, believe in angels, believe in demons, and all of this other shit. And being able to own the fact that you have gone through the absolute madness of the world and you're not allowed to have your imagination and own your creativity. Who the fuck is anybody to tell you whatever you're making up is made up or not correct? There is no correct way to do anything in this life, which is one of those weirder, stranger things to experience, because what's right for one person isn't right for another. And there was this, during the move, I'll definitely say this, during the move, I actually got the ability, because I have moved, I'm now in Spokane instead of Pullman, where this beautiful individual came over and helped with the move. And so thankful for him. And that entire experience of being able to teach on the fly and just kind of be in the process of moving, but also being able to do something that I love at the same time, which literally was something that I couldn't even imagine, but I wanted to make the move better in some way, shape, or form. I don't know what the entire intent was, well, I am aware, obviously, because I just said it, is making the move easier and making the transition smoother. Taking the burden off of everybody was like the ability for me to teach somebody. And this beautiful individual, I don't see it as important to share his name, but I am thankful for him. He asked me about morals, and I hadn't really thought about morals at all while doing this work, but then it became apparent and abundantly aware that like I had the ability to touch on morals, and I actually hit the nail right on the head about this one, which is that's right or wrong stuff. And so many people are living in that dynamic between what's right and what's wrong, like not only with themselves but like with life. And that was a part of the journey, that was a part of the experience that I've had that is strange and curious, because the person was very interested in everything that I was talking about, because it had to do with like you get to create your own life and you get to create your own abundance and everything else that's going on in your life, and you just become more and more abundant in your ability to do so. It's not that it changes right away. Sometimes things happen instantaneously, other times it's a slow burn and you're just dealing with tension the entire time, but not, getting in your head about it, which is where the chaos comes in, is like all the things that it means about you. But I digress, I'll get into that later. The ability to talk about rights and wrongs and being able to break it down to like, can you unanimously say with like most people, if you brought them into a room and it was a focus group or whatever, and you ask them if killing somebody is wrong, they're more likely going to say yes. Like in a large group, unanimously, they're more than likely going to say yes. And then, if you broke them off into like separate groups where they had like their own think tank time, they might come up with reasons why killing isn't always bad. Whatever. Digress from that point. The point that I am aiming for, and the one that's the most obvious to make, is that right and wrong is one of those steps where you're trying to make sure that what you desire, what you really want in your life, is acceptable by everybody. And guess what? The person that you came here to be, myself included, and I mainly will talk for myself, it's not going to happen. Not everybody is going to like the person that you become, and not everybody is going to readily, jump on to the ship, the dock, whatever it is that you're on right now, to join you in your journey, because either you haven't stepped up fully, or whatever the involvement is, your story is still in play. Whatever moral dilemma you still have building is still built, and it will eventually crumble when you continue your own journey. Yet, rights and wrong is like, seriously, if you just take a moment and just imagine that you can imagine that everybody has a beautiful heart and they're just ignorant of it, will you look at them and automatically just be like, the way that they're going about their life is right or wrong? No, because the most important part is that that person is a human being with everything going on for them, and they're just experiencing life. Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's bloody, sometimes it's really messed up, but it's neither here nor there. And honestly, I'm not one to have that debate with, because I'll put it to you now, is like the worst thing about me is getting in my own way and getting in my own head and making things mean a goddamn thing about me. Because if somebody is really angry and are really willing to go out of their way to hurt another person, they're trying their damnedest to take their power back from another person. And for them, that escalating conclusion is to kill the person who threatens their power, their ability to make the world the way they want. And that's where I'm going to leave it. People kill for the stupidest reasons, but it's ones built on rational escalation. Radical, rational logic. And it's bad, and it's compensating for something. That's it. Morals, Morals go out the window when somebody is stuck in their feelings and in their head. And again, that's another all on me why I've never shared my journey at length to talk about these things. Because they won't always be accepted, but that's fine. I accept it. I own everything that I say. Is it that I'm just normally going about my days in a more appreciative manner? Absolutely. I appreciate so many people who live their life one way or another, because you're still here. You're still going at your journey at your own pace, and even people who pass on, I won't even feign to know what happens after we perspire. Like, whatever it is, we come back, we do something, you go on another path, whatever it is, I don't know. And even if you do know, I'm happy for you. For me, that is not a part of my journey to know what happens next. Not yet, anyway. So going about my life in a more appreciative manner is like, I'm human, I get to appreciate my humanness. If I've got a bad hair day, my hair's falling out, I've got bumps on my back that are really irritated, I've got like a locked up kneecap, like, those are all things that are human. Like, it's not that I'm going to be, or ever going to be, completely free of like anything that's going on, because I'm still going to be tense about everything, because I'm still going to have that relationship dynamic building for me instead of trying to run away from it. And yeah, I appreciate everything. I appreciate what people are going through. I appreciate like the absolute hell and chaos that people have just rampant in their own head. And I've had many strange experiences, like people giving me a sandwich after talking to them for like a minute, people driving me across town and then quitting their jobs after, dropping me off at the beach, people being willing to road trip me all the way back to California, on a whim of their own, even though all I was focused on was getting home and taking a shower and getting clean clothes on at the same time. They're all a part of that. Is like, I have the ability to appreciate that now, because I can look back and be like, those are some solid manifestations, because I also taught them as well. Like, I also got to share my wisdom with them, have a great time, and yeah, maybe they turn their lives around. I wouldn't know, because the people that I've impacted the lives of or gotten into the lives of, they move on, and so do I. And being able to appreciate where I've been, but even more so for like the strength it takes to stay aware and continue to stay awake to what the journey really is, which is just getting your heart. Like, whoever listens to this, seriously, it's just about your heart. Like, everything else is just, it's going to find its way into your life. Like, the pursuit is just make shit up and get to the goal. Get to your end result, whatever that end result is. And yeah, I love humanity. I love what it's like to be human. I love the chaos of what it means to be human. I appreciate chaos, timelessness, frustration, stress. Like, all of those things are just powerful messages that you're just attempting to kill the messenger over, because they're not going to leave because you've killed them. They're not going to fade because you don't pay attention to them. They're going to just ramp up their desire to get ahead in life and teach you once and for all, because that's the thing you're finding, is you're not your worst enemy after all. Even though it's one of those higher sayings and you're your own worst, or you're your own harshest critic. Yeah, because that's how you see the messages, as self-destructive, but they're really not. They're just more survivor tactics that you've just kind of ignored that you ever made in the first place. So I appreciate those tactics. I appreciate everything that I've done to keep myself alive thus far, even though I definitely attempted to take my own life with polaric stenosis, which is a very rare condition, especially for men or young boys, because males developing. Of course, this is like old timey stuff, but I mean it as in sex. Like, if you came here with like, the genitals, there you go. That's how I'll say it, and I'm sticking to that. And it's rare, but I had it, and it's the tightening of the stomach muscle, and it doesn't let anything in to the stomach. So I nearly died because of that. I nearly offed myself very early when I was younger. And again, that's another thing that's strange, but something that happened. So, but I appreciate it now. I have real no strong urge to like be angry about it. What wrath have I sown from my own personal storm rampaging overhead? When it's come to personal storm, I've definitely had like the most apparent one right now is just my knee being locked up as hell. Like, it was so early for me in my adolescence, when I was a teenager or coming into the age of teenage, where I had my knee lock up a lot, and I couldn't keep my knee bent for a very long time. And it was always like this consistency of like not necessarily always knowing the right move to make after a while. So like, I wouldn't make any moves at all. I would just like placate myself until, the leg would stop being locked up, or I would be able to straighten it and it would pop audibly. Like, you can hear it when I've been sitting too long. It just builds up that pressure and just pops. But I've done a lot of things when it comes to my own personal storm. I've created very terrible situations for myself. The polaric stenosis, for one, when I was younger, and not really seeing the potential of living any longer than I had to, because I wasn't getting nutrients or whatever was required for me at that time to really feel like I had a place to belong in the world, that I was just going to be like stolen from or not necessarily fully accepted, whatever it may be, and created that situation for myself. I've created getting attacked by a dog. I've created, twice, getting attacked by a dog twice. I've created many things in my life. So far, like, no major surgeries. I've at least been creating my hair falling out, which is like my brother and my dad. Right now, they're bald. It's like, to belong as a man, like, I have to lose my hair, and that's fucking ridiculous. But it is the story that is taking place that I'm well aware of, and I've come to appreciate its stupid stupid logic. And I'll always appreciate it like that. It's great. I wouldn't have it any other way. And yeah, like, even like not necessarily having a whole lot of close ties in my life, physical ones, where it's like, yeah, I have friends I can go visit, and a girlfriend or a loved one that's like my significant other who's around me all the time. I haven't created any of that. Like, that's a part of my storm as well, is like the loneliness and being alone, because it's, at some point I defected into becoming a hermit, somebody who's constantly like super wise but super alone at the same time, because that idea of like the suffering artist is like the same for like people who are very spiritual too. Is like, you have the desolation and the loneliness, and nobody ever gets you when you're the guru. Like, that's kind of the idea, but it's BS per usual. It's definitely BS that I'm aware of, so I own it for myself. which is what this is about. I'm sharing my journey about things that I've experienced. And this is something that I've experienced, my own personal storm. And yeah, not necessarily always being able to reach an audience to teach and stuff like that as well is something that I've created. But that one's more, it's as it's obvious to me because it just popped up as just like, it's not necessarily that I'm not reaching an audience. It's more like I'm preparing for a greater audience for the things that I've come to attribute and come to like do master classes and teach about. So that is a part of my storm, but it's one of those that I've begun to actually find more information on when it comes to what's going on with it. But yeah, I've always been accustomed to my own chaos, mentally, feeling wise, giving myself a heart attack with no physical symptoms. All of those things just getting rejected and kind of just being adrift in the world. Like, all of those things are part of my storm that just factors into all kinds of other beliefs that I have, and it's fundamental things. It's not like whether I believe the sky is blue or not. It's more like I don't belong, I'm powerless. There's a whole dynamic behind that, but I'm not here to teach that. I'm just here to reveal that there is a chaos and there is a storm that everybody has. You're your own perfect storm, as I love to say. But what you do with it and how you maintain it is up to you, because you're the eye of the storm. I'm the eye of my own storm. And chaos is just a word. It doesn't mean anything. What it was like to feel so lost from my current relationship, build ongoing tension between where I was and where I'm choosing to go. The tension itself is one of those things. I could definitely say, like, from a lower perspective, it's like, yeah, this is unbearable, and this is like garbage to deal with constantly. Having this tension and ongoing as well is like, it's so damn intrusive and so effective at like sometimes making you feel small and unseen in the world. But at the same time, I'm aware of that, and I'm like, okay, like, if that's the worst I can say about myself, all right. If that's the worst that's going on for me right now, I can still move forward. And every bit of my current relationship and my current life, and even like the loss and the awareness that not knowing what the next step is and not having mastermind and 100 IQ, 1,000 billion IQ knowledge on everything still allows me to create beautiful things is the point. Where I was alone in my room, feeling the most rejected I've ever been, back in the desert. And I don't live in the desert anymore. My life has changed significantly in a very short time. I've lived in the desert, which is like the ideal place for most people when it's like, oh yeah, you're a messiah or you're this or that, and the sand and the heat and all of that, it's things for you to just become zen with and all this other stuff. I get the irony of it, because the entire idea was like, I was exiled in this existence. I was an outcast that was going to be slaughtered, because I was getting too close to truth and my own light, my own love, my own ability to just let go of everything was like so far out of my reach, and that no one was going to be there for me except for like my family and the weird taboos I have around love and self-acceptance and all of this other stuff that was going on for me at the time. And I was never going to make it. Like, I was going to die, and I was going to lose it all, and I was going to repeat that over and over and over again. I would be reborn into the same life, into the same pattern of forgetting that I ever was stuck in my life, and hit that same point and then die. and die in the most beautiful way. But everything leading up to my death was horrendous and nightmarish. So, where I was and where I'm going now and where I'm choosing, I'm manifesting, I'm locked into a way that I want to live. It was all about choice. Because there's this idea that is always floating around. The Bible likes to talk about it, and it's one of those things that people are always very eager to talk about but don't really understand, is like free will. Like, all human beings have free will. But free will also comes with choosing whether or not you're locked into the life that you have or able to create the life that you love. And that's the only way I'll use that. And that's the only way I've learned and found that is actually important to get across, is that it wasn't about being trapped with will and the ability to determine your direction in life. It was using it on purpose to give your life purpose. And there's always like this, like, oh, people have, come to God and come to doing something or other that really gives their life purpose. And that's the point. You get to choose what your purpose is. Not the chaos, not the thoughts, not the feelings that you have, but the actual one you've dedicated for yourself. And what it feels like right now to be going through that, like what's obvious for me when it comes to the tension between the two, I wouldn't have it any other way, because there was so much that had me just trapped in the desert and had me really irresponsible for my own well-being, that made it okay for me to suffer in silence and just to be internal and suffering the entire time, because that's all it was. Like, the psychoactive experience and everything else that kind of woken me up to realize that I have more power over everything that I was doing woke that up. Because there's always this idea that our existence can be a cosmic joke. Because I'll tell you, I'll fill you in on the cosmic joke, because it's a part of the journey, is that there's so much that you have created that you're not aware of. Like, there's so much choice in your everyday life by the way that you act, which is actions speak louder than words, which is another saying that, again, it's just one of those things that gets tossed out there, but nobody really understands what it means. Actions speak louder than words. The thing that creates your life is what people call the subconscious. And the journey to understand the subconscious, how it works, how self-conscious works, how all of these different conscious states work, and unconscious, of course, being like if you're asleep or something. It doesn't matter how you term everything, like your sleep state, your awake state, and whatever gets messages and everything else that's going on. Because your brain, let's face it, is a supercomputer. It processes a lot of information. And I'll share how much exactly, which is 400 billion. 400 billion bits of information. That's a lot for you just to continue to live your life based on your thoughts and feelings, to suffer in your current, whatever it is that you're going through. It's your personal journey. And it doesn't come off as like, I never mean it to come off as like that's not important, but it is important to you, whoever's watching this. That's your journey, and you take that as is, because there's so much information that you're just not available to. But you require information outside of the information you have. And our brains, for better or worse, are hardwired to create grooves of memory and interlock them with feelings and thoughts. They trigger, and they have very specific ramifications, meanings, subtext, audio text, all of that. It's like knowing somebody has trust issues is because they bring up trust and how you can't trust people. That's one version. But there's plenty of cues that allow you to recognize where you're coming from. I don't care is one of the ones I've used the most in my life. Saying I don't care means no matter what, I've already removed myself from the situation. I've deleted my entire existence from this situation because I don't care enough to be here, to be present, to be aware of anything that's going on. I've just Control-Alt-deleted that entire portion of my life because I don't care. And it is one of the words that I have been aware of for a very long time, and I recognize if it ever comes up for me, and I'm only bringing it up now as like point of interest and to show, where that comes from. You care a lot. I care so much about a lot of things that just saying that has never been true to my heart. It's in the denial of my heart that I would say something like that. And I do. I do care. And I care deeply about the things that people love and that I love. And that's the only thing that I'll pursue. And I'll always be compassionate for others. I will never delete myself from an existence with another person because of that. Because of those 3 simple words. Yeah, but it's proven that everybody has neurons and they fire in very specific patterns. If somebody has neurological damage in a certain area, they can actually create a new bridge that allows them to retain function. Like say neurological damage causes like paralysis of their hand and their arm or elbow, leg, whatever it is. And you can actually teach the brain how to function differently so that it can become a new pathway. So it's like they never lost that function in the first place. There was no paralysis, there was no area in which there was neurological damage. And that's what our brains have always been like. They're putty, they're electric, and they're capable of a lot of incredible things. So that's what I've just been learning, is taking everything that I had ever been about in my life, just appreciating it, because there's no throwing it away, there's no like releasing it into the wild, never having to deal with it again. It's coming back to it, seeing it play out, and just choosing a different outcome, choosing an entirely different end result from the life that I lived. And the feeling of it is both exciting and scary, and at times doesn't feel like I'm very supported. But then I remember, and I come back to the thing that I've found about myself, is that I'm inevitably going to get my heart, because that's what I've set out to do for a very long time. A very long time. As somebody who is timeless can say. So I've chosen to go on this path into a life that I love, and I would never have it any other way. I would choose this one. And just to like cover what the subconscious is, like anybody who talks about the subconscious is like, the subconscious, it hears messages, but it's based on actions. And it says yes to the actions that you're performing and gives you the adequate response into your reality. If it's hearing things, actions, messages that hold a lot of energy that are going towards something that you don't want, it will choose that, which is the whole resistance is persistence. The ability to damage yourself because you're persisting that something must be resisted, which again is all morals and all of that other stuff and what is right or wrong, and we have our own. I already covered that. I marvel at the world and wish to see more of what I love. Why? Because I realized being on this path and going through everything else and finding out more and more about myself, my talents, my abilities, the things that I care about, they're all things that no one is ever going to do unless I actually act on them. And even if somebody's doing something roughly like mine, I'm the only one who can actually effectively create something simply for my own entire everything when it comes to coming together, keeping it cohesive, and living the life that I love. Like, I'm here to love. I'm here to just exist the way that I want to. And if it's birds singing, if it's a vibration that's running through the earth, if it's an earthquake, which are the trippiest things to feel, because everything is like a wave, and that's how you know everything's a vibration in this existence. Because when the walls, ripple, it's vibration, and it's so cool. And life in and of itself, I just love it so much. And the path I've chosen and everything that I'm on is like, these are different aspects of myself that I get to create outwardly. Like, being able to create a beautiful art gallery that just like, blends such incredible vibes together would just be incredible. Seeing people put things together just with their bare hands and actually like really appreciate them. That's another incredible thing. Like, this is fun. Like, being able to communicate and talk with people and just communicate in general, it's such an incredible experience, because there's parts of like communicating and getting in touch with like the true emotion of things that you really want. It's like that is why I love it, is because it doesn't end with like one really good conversation. It doesn't end with one really good meditation. It doesn't end with just one creation. It's so many creations. And for me, it's always an undercurrent. There's always a ripple effect of like higher energy that goes into everything. And that high energy is what is inevitable about the love in my life and about the creations in my life. And I marvel at it because there are some really interesting and very large visions that I have for my life moving forward, and things that I choose that I would love to just see come into creation. Like, they're so freaking cool. I'm looking forward to them. And that's what it's about for me. That's why I love it, is that I have something to look forward to. It's not like the default of like, the same thoughts and feelings over and over again. No, it's having a vision of something that I'm aware that my heart wants and that I would love to have, and I'm willing to go for it, and I'm willing to sit with that and just take it and own that. It's incredible, and that's my why. Even for sharing my journey, this is my why. Am I even scared of myself or my journey into the unknown anymore? Yeah, my fear was always self-inflicted, because I was scared of my own heart. I was scared of what I loved, and no matter what anybody says, and no matter how rationalized it can get, the person that you're scared of most is you, because your heart and your intent and the things that you really want in life lie just beyond what you're afraid of. And that has been something too that I've learned and that I've come to, and that I've really acknowledged moving forward. And yeah, sometimes I recognize that I am scared of myself and like what it is that I really want, and what that's gonna look like, and who I'm gonna have to whatever, based on thoughts and feelings that I've had probably a million times. But it's just the same message. It's the doubt that what I have to offer is good for anybody other than myself. And even right now, like, just talking about it, it's like my knee wants to lock up. And that's just that step forward. It seems like a big commitment, and that I just doubt that I actually have the ability to do it without causing any harm to anybody. And it's like, that's a worst case scenario, and it could happen. I embrace and accept that the next step could possibly hurt somebody, either purposefully or non-purposefully. Like, it could happen, and it's not because I'm a fortune teller. I'm just able to recognize that my own energy, the way that's working right now, is to try to resist that idea that whatever I do could potentially hurt somebody or be unacceptable in some way, shape, or form to people outside of myself, to you guys viewing this and watching it, hearing what I have to say. Like, all of those things moving forward, they're acceptable. And it's not the idea of like acceptable casualties. I'll face that one right now. It's more that I'm not going to resist the opportunity to accept what I'm resisting right now, because it will only persist. My knee will only lock up even more, and then it will just focus on the action of me not addressing it squarely. And I'm addressing it squarely because it desires and wants to be expressed fully, is that I love everybody, everything. Like, everything is beautiful to me, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, I'm going to make moves, and I'm going to make waves, and if that upsets people, if that puts people off, if that's something that a viewer of this like watches and then just, you know, shake your head and like run out of your house screaming to the heavens of whatever that is, whatever that reaction is, it's purely up to you. Like, my action is just to address it and to vocalize it and just love it anyway, unconditionally. So yeah, I am afraid of the unknown, but I'm also aware that all of the things that make me great and all the things that make me powerful in life and strong and courageous and brave all lie in the unknown. So it's worth going into, and it's worth me pursuing it, no matter what. Could it kill me? Absolutely. Is our greatest fear death? No, it's the realization that what we believe isn't going to kill us. Now that's a head scratcher. Where do I see myself going? What's that like there? My land of plenty, and just being able to have friends and acquaintances that are highly valuable to me, and not only are extremely resourceful, like as just individuals in and of themselves, not like they're giving me resources or anything. They definitely can. And the support and the love and just being surrounded by people who actually want to live and create and continue to be that for themselves, but also be that for the people that they're going into the lives of, because I will only ever offer the things that I love. And that's the life that I want, is a life that I love, full on, no breaks, no stop. Love is what my life is about. And being able to face the unknown head on. There's a reason why most people would say, and it was one of the things where it's like, oh yeah, most people are afraid of the unknown. It's because you yourself made a good deal of who you are in the unknown. And it's an incredible journey, and it's a freeing one as well. And it's one where you can embrace chaos. It's one you can embrace your confusion around time. It's one where you can face your demons, your darkness, your dragon, your hydra. Like, it's everything and more that you could ever want to interact with. And that's where I'm going. I'm going there, a place where there are so many people who've embraced so much of the pain that they've been through in their life and the suffering, to recognize that they have personal responsibility, that they can take their life and put it where they want. And that's what I envision, putting it everywhere that I want my life to be. surrounded by people who actually want me to be there. And I want to be around them. And I choose it, and they choose it, and just allowing that to unfold naturally, beautifully, from all of those unseen ripples, because there's a fascination that I have both with storms and with water. The ocean there's underlying currents in the ocean. You wouldn't know there's riptides and all of these other streams underwater unless you go underwater. And that's what this is about. That's the unknown. We still have no idea what's in the actual ocean in its deepest depths, and there's a reason for that. Because very rare is there a human who wants to see their deepest depths personally. So why would we ever collectively be aware of the deepest depths of the ocean? That's actually a really good reflection. Love that. But yeah, that's the life. And what's that like there? Beautiful. So many smiling people. Everybody's having just the greatest time and able to just embark into things that they're terrified of, conversations, different topics, and nothing is off the board because they want what they love, and they're aware of the heart of everyone that's near them, and I'm aware of their heart, and I appreciate them for it. How will I get there from my current state? Keep on the journey. It's immediately what came to me, and that's what's obvious. It's just continuing to stay the path, stay the course. It's going to come with many different ways on how that's going to look and everything else, but stay the course. Continue creating, continue putting myself out there, continue making videos like this. Because it's not that the video is the thing that is going to get me there, and this isn't an A to B to C to Z thing. I'm completely content that I've actually completed this and that I get to post it wherever it wants to be posted, and that's how I'll get there. Continue finding things that I would really love to do, embrace the fact that I love them and that I will complete them, and just allow my own greatness to shine and recognize that people will hear it and recognize it immediately, especially those that are a part of that last question of where do I see myself going, what's that like there. Just being surrounded by magicians, beautiful people who want their heart above all else, that aren't afraid of what others might see in them or feel about them, and even if they are, the fear doesn't outweigh their beautiful heart, and it doesn't outweigh what they're able to just give to the space. It's everybody there, because the most beautiful thing that you can be is vulnerable, and that's another thing. It's another step to getting there. And recognizing the power of this journey and recognizing everything that is shared here, because I've been through a hell of a roller coaster, and it's not like it's over yet. This is just the beginning of the actual roller coaster. I've created so much in such a short period of time, and again, there's so many things about life where it's you can't track it all the way through, and it's not about tracking it all the way through and being 100% certain that something is your creation. It's just recognizing something is your creation, because man, what was it, back in 2020 I was homeless. Myself, my brother, my mom, my dad didn't have a house to ourselves. We ended up getting evicted from a place that should have been ours because we paid over what that place was worth. desolate and desperate. And now here I am, in a room that I have that's mine, that's potentially bigger than any room I've ever had. And that's saying something, because I haven't had a large room where all of the stuff that's required in my room can actually fit in my room without it all being stuffed in the closet to save space, because there's no floor space. Being able to go out into nature, being able to embrace my nature, being, and I wouldn't say like confident and like I'm aware that I'm 100% confident, being aware that I can speak about my journey and just share the fact that, yeah, it's only been 2 years. 2 years of difference that it has made. Going from one situation to the next and just strides. It's huge. And to put it in perspective, being stuck in the house that was less than both its value and our own personal value as the people in it, I was like there for like 7-10 years, something around that. I was there for a very long time, out in the desert, destitute, and now I'm making friends, hosting Zoom sessions to help people find their heart, building, little creatures with my hands, interacting with guides, having actual communications with entities and stuff like that, because I can make it up and the results speak for themselves. And I never let myself have that until this very moment when I recorded this. That actually happened. I was homeless not even that long ago. Because when COVID struck, it was us homeless in somebody else's house. And just being in that space. Not really having a voice, or not even giving myself a chance to speak upon my journey and to really cover it and give it in full. But yeah, these are all talking points. I've been through a lot in my journey, as I've shared. There's so much. Lived a long life in the desert. Now I'm in an area that has trees, forests, rivers, bodies of water I can step into, and literally started this journey not that long ago. It didn't take that long for my life to turn around. And mind you, I'm the one that's been on the journey the longest. There hasn't been another member in my household who has taken it upon themselves to be on the journey until recently. But man, there's so much. That's a lot, even for me to take in at the very end here, and it's just me openly appreciating, loving, having so much gratitude and acceptance from where I'd been, because the only person that you or I can ever measure our life against is ourselves. Yourself. Because nobody else really makes that big a difference in your life. Because it depends on what you're focused on. It doesn't matter what they're focused on. Because they can be focused on the rent. They can be focused on paying bills. They can be focused on getting the car fixed. And again, it's not like I got the money or I personally did X, Y, or Z in order to make something happen. It was just A and B the entire time, and I had no idea how any of it was going to happen. And everything from health issues to being trapped in my own head, and now I'm here making a video about it, about the fact that it was rough, and I wouldn't say that it wasn't, because everybody's subject to their own torture and their own suffering from whatever naive situation they're coming from. And I mean that for myself, because I was naive. I didn't know any better. It was the vital piece of information that turned my entire life around. And I can definitely talk about my journey all day long, about the stuff that I went through and everything that I created, both good and bad. And definitely one of the weirder things that I can share about my journey and my experience is that even coming down to like manifesting somebody that I'm actually interested in being with and everything, it was about that. It was about choosing the energy, the vibrancy about the person that I wanted to be with that really lights me up. And I manifested that. It's just based on that alone. Just listening to like the instant message of like, let's go. Go to Vegas. Meet a YouTuber. Learn parkour. Like, there's so much power in making choices. Your will has no limit to what it's capable of. And it's vast, and it's beautiful, and it's powerful. And yeah, the key points of everything that I covered in my journey and just this breakdown at the last bit, like, really got to me. That's why I'm on the path. That's why I'm on this journey. I'm going from learning all kinds of things about alchemy and Hermes and Egypt and all of these other places, all of these other teachers who learned a little bit about something about imagination, but never took it to the next level. I'm so thankful for the journey, for the ability to complete journey, the ability for it to finally land, that I had actually manifested quite a bit. That I actually have created at least bits and pieces of my land of plenty already. And land of plenty is that idea that there's a place that has everything that your heart could ever want. And if you're ever interested, just reach out and I'll share more, give more details about things, because there's a lot of stuff that I've learned, there's a lot of stuff that I want to teach, and there's a lot of stuff that I just would love to communicate, and this is the most beautiful way I have communicated thus far, and I want it to land, and it will. that's where I'll leave it. Take care. You're all beautiful. You're all going on a journey. May this find you when you really require that reflection of the journey.